Previously on Chaos Head Noah.
ディソードが。
When I came back to myself, I couldn't immediately grasp what was going on, leaving me to blankly stare up at Girl B. She was still wearing her shoes, and she wasn't stepping on my crotch or anything. What the? Had that been a delusion? So she wasn't trying to accuse me of seeing her panties. At any rate, a D sword. Or DI sword? The hell is that? I'm gonna go with D. It was the first time I'd ever heard that word. Girl B had said it was a sword, and whatever she was carrying was definitely shaped like a sword, but why was she asking me if I could see it? I decided to just nod. I mean, obviously I could see it. There'd be something wrong with me if I couldn't.
私は3年の青い瀬名。駅前の電車にいる。
Aoi Sena, huh? I opened my eyes. The girl calling herself Sena had vanished. I was completely stunned, and it wasn't until I arrived back at my base that I realized I hadn't understood a single goddamn word she said. Even though she had been yammering on and on just a bit ago, she had fallen completely silent, now walking with an absent-minded look on her face. It even looked like her eyes weren't really focused on the road, but that was probably just my imagination. Her footsteps were unsteady. Something must be wrong with her, I suspected. She kept on swaying back and forth, and about a moment later, she stumbled right out onto the road. Right as a car came racing toward her, Nanami, are you, Takumi, get her out of the road! Panicking, I grabbed Nanami's arm and yanked her back. Good boy! The horn of a car blared as it sped by. She just barely avoided getting run over.
お前、何やってんだ。
あれ
Did you space out? Or something? Nanami blinked a few times and tilted her head to the side.
ねえお兄、今ヒュンヒュンヒュンっていう音聞こえなかった？
What? What was she talking about? I hadn't heard jack shit.
その音聞いてたらね、なんだかぼんやりした感覚になって。で、あそこに。
Nanami pointed at the corner of the road.
お父さんとお母さんが立ってて、ナナを呼んでたの。
When I looked where Nanami was pointing, I didn't see our parents. Instead, I saw a creepy man standing in that exact spot. He wore a plaid shirt, fingerless gloves, jeans rolled at the bottom, and white sneakers. He had a rucksack on his back that was filled to bursting. He looked like an otaku plucked straight out of Akihabara. Clapping off his outfit, he was holding a video camera in one hand. Did he have a voyeur fetish or some shit?
おい、他人を指さすな。
God, what a rude-ass sister. You're one to talk. Besides, it makes no sense for our parents to be here in the first place. They lived in Shimokitazawa, after all. Where is that?
おかしいな。確かに呼ばれたのに。
A few moments later, FES, Kishimoto Ayase appeared. He was just like Misumi-kun said. She really was FES. I'd made sure of that while observing her from a safe distance. I still couldn't believe she was in the same year as us. She was wearing a sume uniform. A distinct aloofness came from her expression as she walked slowly down the hallway. It gave off a completely different impression the one she had on stage. Back then, her apathetic tone, despite her apathetic tone, I felt a sense of power and liveliness emanating off of her. But now, the aura she gave off felt listless and unapproachable. They definitely suspected me. I had to answer honestly. Staring at the manhole cover right beneath my feet, I began to blurt out everything.
見たんです。貼り付けの現場、そこに女がいたんです。で、血まみれにして死体の前に杭がたくさん死体に突き刺さってて、あれ500本は絶対超えてた。異常だ。死体がハリネズミみたいになってて、女は僕を見てよかったって笑ってた。あの女は悪魔だ。人間じゃない。ニュージェネの母には人を超えた存在なんだ。ヨシとかすごい超能力とか使う。
Upon saying that much, I realized the two detectives were staring at me with their eyes wide. Maybe the whole thing was a product of my own design, and I was just being the world's biggest dumbass. I swear, if the owner of the gaze wasn't there, and I'd just been sitting here trembling in fear over nothing, I was gonna kill myself.
あれ、タク？固まってる？
It wasn't a hallucination or a delusion after all. There was someone right behind me. Startled, I reflexively turned around. Well, look who it is! The demon girl! The girl sitting on the sofa was undeniably the same one I'd seen at the Kruger fiction crime scene. And now, for some reason I couldn't comprehend, she was just standing there, looking at me, smiling. Oh fuck. Oh fuck. Oh fuck! She'd finally come to kill me. It had to be because of the detectives I talked to. She'd seen me do it for clairvoyance.
タク、大地に出た？
The demon girl once again peered at my face. Shit, she was way too close. I turned my back to her and spoke into the receiver.
僕、西条。
なんだ、タクか。リミと一緒にいるのか？
Why had he responded so nonchalantly? Him acting so natural made it sound like me going to the demon girl was an everyday occurrence or something.
またリミに振り回されてるのか？大変だな、お前も。でもよ、一つだけ言っていい？お前、そろそろ自分の携帯変えよ。
Was the person on the other end really Misumi-kun? For example, there was the possibility that the demon girl had made a phone call to someone who only sounded like Misumi-kun. Maybe this person who sounded like Misumi-kun was just another underling of hers, and he was only pretending to be Misumi-kun in order to trick me. I was starting to doubt anything and everything. I didn't know what was true and what was a lie.
帰ってよ。
I don't want anything to do with her. I don't want anything to do with any 3D girls. This is a trap. Don't listen to her. This isn't reality. This is a game. One filled with bugs. There are way too many contradictions. It doesn't hold together as a proper story.
僕に関わらないでよ。
If you don't intend to kill me, then just leave me alone. I am me. Some me that isn't me may be friends with Sakihara Rimi, but that me has nothing to do with the current me. Cradling my head, I closed myself off completely. I kept trembling and trembling, envisioning that the demon girl known as Sakihara Rimi wasn't there anymore. Not long after, I heard the sound of the door opening, telling me that the demon girl had left. And so it continues. Greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Chaos Head Noah. So, I've come up with one additional potential theory that could explain what the hell happened with our meeting with Rimi and Misumi's apparently existing prior memories of Rimi and ourselves all having hung out together, whereas Takumi doesn't have any idea who the hell she is or what the hell he was talking about. And that's simply put, false memories. I think it's already been firmly established that psychic phenomenons are playing a role in what's going on around Shibuya at this point. So, wouldn't it stand to reason then that false memories could explain what the contradiction that we saw at the end of the last episode? It would certainly fit with the whole psychic nonsense that's been going on with Shogun and everything else relating to that. And assuming those D swords that we've also been properly introduced to are also manifestations of psychic phenomenon rather than, say, magic or something, then, well, I think that would give even more credence to this theory of mine that, well, maybe somebody out there has the power to create false memories in people. Of course, I can't really prove whether this is the result of psychic phenomenon unless I know for certain that every single weird thing that we've seen so far has actually been the result of some form of a psychic phenomenon, those D swords included. So I'm gonna have to learn some more things before I can confirm it. And I think I just repeated myself. So yeah, I truly don't have any solid clue on what exactly happened in the last episode, but I'm willing to make a prediction that false memories might have something to do with it, something to do with this, because thinking about it in retrospect, us suddenly find ourselves in an alternate reality without us realizing it seems like a bit too much of a leap in logic, considering what we've seen so far. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we've seen so far has definitely been very incredible, to put it lightly, but nothing so incredible as that. Or to put another way, I'm gonna temper my predictions a little bit until I see something truly phenomenal before I start seriously considering some seriously wild theories. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough. Let's get started. You doing okay, Takumi? Who am I kidding? You obviously aren't. Maybe we can get Saratan to calm me down. Oh, Sarah! Pictured on the screen was a Sarah screensaver from Bloodtoon, the animation. Well, there had been a girl by the name of Sakihara Rimi present in the container half a day prior. The only figure that remained was the container's owner, Nishijo Takumi. It was already 5 in the morning. In Takumi's daily life, he would play online games until dawn, and then collapse onto the sofa once he could not keep his eyes open any longer. Even now, Takumi was asleep on the couch, twisted in a seemingly uncomfortable position. He never used his bed for sleep. He did indeed have a proper bed, but it was already occupied by manga, CDs, and other random piled-up media. He could never be bothered to tidy up, so his bed had effectively been repurposed into his storeroom. Ever since then, he had utilized his two-person sofa as his one and only place to sleep. A pained moan escaped from Takumi's lips. Perhaps he was having a nightmare. His entire body was perspiring, and his closed eyelids twitched and trembled. His expression was warped in agony, and he was tossing and turning so frequently he came very close to falling off the couch. Right before he did, however, his eyes suddenly and inexplicably shot open as he faced the ceiling. They were bloodshot, and his eyeballs were faintly convulsing. Still in that state, without blinking even a single time, he rose from the sofa. He slowly staggered toward the PC. Without sitting down, he moved the mouse as he stood before the desk. The screensaver disappeared, and his desktop showed itself. The pale light of the monitor shone on Takumi's face, illuminating his horrifyingly vacant expression. His body swayed back and forth, and his mouth hung slightly ajar. Drool seeped down his chin. He's not conscious, is he? His current state was a textbook example of sleepwalking. The delirious boy launched the web browser, then opened @channel. His movement itself was languid and slow, but he showed no hesitation in selecting a thread from the board related to NewGen. The board listed a total of around 60 threads, and Takumi slowly opened each one of them, one by one. 60 tabs has got to be murder on your freaking browser, on your RAM. And then, with his eyes remaining glued to the monitor, he began to type. He repeated this action for each and every thread. His posts were not particularly long, only housing a few characters each, but they all composed of the exact same sentence. Whose eyes are those eyes? Yeah. Oh, hey! Shogun! It's Shogun! Well, how about that? Yua was completely on the mark when in regards to Shogun's identity. In that case... Well, I wouldn't... Well, no. This wouldn't... Sleepwalking isn't necessarily a case of dissociative identity disorder, as far as I'm aware. You're unconscious, and you can do things, and you can do all kinds of actions while unconscious. If you're in a deep enough sleepwalking state, I mean, this severity differs from person to person. Some people can get out of bed, walk up, go fiddle around in their fridges, have full-on conversations with people, and still be unconscious in some of the most severe cases, but they're not actually conscious, they're actually asleep. And if that person wakes up, they would have virtually no recollection whatsoever of what they were doing during that state. Again, as far as I'm aware, sleepwalking and DID are technically classified as two completely different disorders, even if they have a few similar characteristics to one another. So, the DID thing could still be a red herring. But wait, no, wait. How do you explain that conversation that we had with... that doesn't explain the conversation that we had with Shogun towards the beginning of the story, in real time, along with those photos. Well, We clearly still need to work the logistics of how all this works out. That much is obvious, but I think one thing we've definitely confirmed for sure is that Yua is right, and that Takumi and Shogun are apparently one and the same, at least in regards to what we've seen. What if it's some form of possession? Like psychic possession or something like that, and Shogun can just merely possess certain people that are susceptible to their influence, and make them commit all sorts of actions while unconscious, up to and including having conversations with Takumi, who they clearly also could possess. That would certainly explain how we could have a conversation with Shogun, even if they are supposedly us, because, well, in a matter of speaking, Shogun is only us when they're possessing Takumi. But they could also influence the actions of other people, and thus be able to have conversations with different hosts, so to speak. And if possession is indeed what I'm seeing here, that might also explain New Gen Madness to a degree. Because some of the witness reports for those murders, witnesses did specify their disbelief that some of the victims, like in that rooftop drop, where those people just all. It was the group dive, that's right. It was called the group dive, where people who knew the people who participated in the group dive simply couldn't believe that any of them were suicidal. Well, what if they were driven to that by some foreign entity in their own minds? I think we've already seen an example of such a thing happening with Nanaka in the last episode. Where we had where something was calling out to her in her parents' voice, and it almost caused her to get run over. I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued. I got quite the jigsaw puzzle put in front of me, and I am very, very, very eager to see if I can piece it all together before the answers are formally revealed to me. I went to the hospital first thing the next morning. They hadn't confirmed it the last time I'd come here, but today they would definitely tell me I was normal. Dr. Takashina would remember me. I'd tell him it's me, Nishiju. Nishiju. I was your patient until around 4 years ago, and then he'd tell me everything I needed to hear. I wasn't the crazy one. It was a demon girl and Misumi-kun. They were the crazy ones. That was definitely what he was going to say. This hospital opened at 8 in the morning, which is a little bit earlier than regular hospitals. That was the reason why I'd showed up. I showed up right when it opened, and yet the seats in the lobby were already filled with countless middle-aged people or older. What the hell? Why? The hospital just opened, so why are there so many people here? Don't you bastards know head starts are unfair? But it's fair when you do it. Okay. Come on time like you're supposed to, assholes! As I continued to insult them inside my head, I had no choice but to wait. About an hour passed before I really started to regret not having made an appointment. But right after I started thinking that, they called my name, and I was immediately relieved to know that I wouldn't have to wait as long as last week. Except, the one waiting for me in the examination room wasn't Dr. Takashina, but some white-haired old man that I had never seen before.
高階先生は
Noticing my confusion, the nurse standing right behind him, I think her name was Hazuki-san, gave an apologetic look.
高階先生はもういません。
Really? He... what?
もういないというか、過労がたたって先週末に倒れてしまわれてね。今週はそれでずっと休みだよ。
Fatigue. What? This couldn't be happening. My one and only ally. Wait, had he really collapsed from fatigue?
陰謀だ。悪魔女の陰謀だ。
西条さん
She had to have poisoned his food, or sent him a death threat to scare him into submission, or done some other horrible act to psychologically break him. This had to be the work of the demon girl. I'm more inclined to think that this could just be the work of this Nozomi group. She was trying to isolate me from my allies, so I'd be defenseless against her assault. There was no way in hell I was going to let anyone other than Dr. Takashina examine me. So instead of getting a checkup, I ran away from the hospital. Leaning on the fence at the edge of the roof, I blankly stared up at the sky. The skies of Shibuya were dim and lifeless. You'd have to be crazy to call them clear.
病院にはもう行かない方がいい。
The demon girl's net was tightening around me. Maybe I already had nowhere to run. Maybe the detectives I'd met yesterday were imposters. Maybe in reality, they had been the demon girl's underlings all along, and they'd just been testing me. That had to be it. The timing had just been way too perfect. The demon girl had broken into my room right after I talked to them, for fuck's sake. She was a demon after all. She wasn't human. Controlling and manipulating the human mind would be child's play for her. I had no evidence of that, though. But at the same time, I had no evidence proving she wasn't a demon. Which meant the only way to stay alive was to just assume the worst case scenario. Did I really have nobody on my side? Well, we have Nanami, don't we? It felt like everyone was against me. No matter where I looked, no matter who it was, all I saw was yet another one of the demon girl's underlings.
助けて。誰か助けてよ。
Oh yeah, there's also... Well, I don't know about Sena. Maybe she's an ally. Maybe she hasn't, maybe she isn't. I don't think we ever truly confirmed that last time we met. Maybe we should give her a shot. Why didn't I have even a single ally? Why wouldn't anyone come to save me? Why did only I have to suffer so much? I don't know. Haven't you been paying attention to the news? People have been dying. People have been losing their goddamn minds. You ain't the only one suffering, son. I felt more hopeless than ever. I just wanted something to support me. Someone who would protect me. Something that would protect me. I didn't care who or what it was. Just someone. Something. Please, grant me salvation. And then, just as suddenly, FES's Kishimoto Ayase's face appeared in my mind. Oh yeah, I guess we haven't really confirmed whether FES is an ally or enemy either, have we? I remember what she'd said to me when we met at school. I'd been lost in my own delusions at the time, but Misumi-kun told me what she'd said. Find a sword. If you do, you'll be granted salvation.
Ken.
If this was a game, I'd be the protagonist, and there'd be a cliché story moment where I'd obtain the legendary sword and triumph over evil. At this point, I heard the word sword from 2 different 3D girls recently, and in extremely close proximity at that. There still remained the possibility that FES was on my side. Girl B, however, I think her name was Sena, had a pretty high chance of being one of the demon girl's underlings, judging by her attitude. A sword.
剣だ。剣を手に入れるんだ。そうすれば。
I started talking to myself like I'd lost my mind. I was grasping at straws at this point. If I just get my hands on a sword, I might be freed from this nightmare. I couldn't help but hope for that. It wasn't that I believed what FES said about it granting me salvation. I just had nothing else to cling to. At the very least, I should do some research. I promptly tried searching for it online. I started off by checking to see if the swords FES and Sena were carrying appeared in any anime, but I couldn't find anything, at least from the seasonals. I'd expected as much. I always checked out the newest anime after all. Considering there were upwards of 30 to 40 of them in one season, it'd really pile up on me if I tried to watch them all, so I just watched the first couple episodes and figured out which ones to keep following from there. Naturally, since Mewtwo existed, I had no trouble completing my lineup from channels such as BS and CS. So there was no way I'd overlooked any anime. I don't know, maybe those swords could have shown up like 4 or 5 episodes into a certain anime. Some shows have a slow burn. And no swords weren't in any of the shows I checked out. The swords both had extremely distinctive shapes, so if they'd showed up, I definitely would have remembered them. Although if someone other than myself had been controlling me when I saw it, then there was nothing I could do about it. Next, I tried searching for the swords themselves, rather than any anime they might have appeared in.
Kuso, ほとんどがゲームの攻略サイトじゃんか。
Terms I knew well, such as ESO's Shangri-La Edge, kept popping up. I was making no progress. For fuck's sake, I was supposed to be able to find it quickly. I had a feeling that Sena had used a more concrete name for it. What had it been? Remember, the nightmare won't end unless you remember.
答えろ。見えるんだな。ディソードが。
ディソード。
That was it. She called it a D sword. I quickly typed it in and ran a search. I got hits. Thus, okay, let's see what this says. The first one says, thus, swords of light known as D-swords were unleashed upon the world. D-swords are fictional swords created in medieval Europe by the legendary Gladiol, the wicked-hearted king. The swords were created to feed off of the negative emotions of man, and as such, it is said that the Black Knights who fought with these swords eventually had their hearts eaten away by them. Unlike other holy/cursed swords, these swords are characterized by their unique invisibility. That, to me, sounds like the most promising result right there. I'd look into that one. Now, what does number 2 say? I bought a sword today. It's called a D sword, I think. Seriously, I can't get enough of all the Shay stuff I've been picking up. Town Vanguards is an oasis for my soul, man. The only places in the entire Tokyo metropolitan area that I've got that shitty vibe TV has are in Akiba. I'm still wondering, though, who the hell named the thing a D sword? Lol. It's this pretty huge toy, and it's got this real oomph to. Okay. First result is definitely, I think, the most interesting one. Takumi, please click it for us. Only 2 of them, though. Even so, I was already starting to think of those 2 links as my road to salvation. Holding back my excitement, I clicked the top one first. A 404, huh? Interesting. Shit, the page was down. Damn it, what the hell? Okay, calm down. Go back and look at the cache. The page had an illustration on it. Must have been recreation based on how the sword was described in various books. Assuming he's going to read the whole thing for us in the dialogue box, I will just not read any more for now. Ah, shit.
でもセナって女が持ってたのに比べるとこっちは随分地味だな。
Well, should have just read it when I had the chance. Now we got a whole paragraph missing. Why did it have to be such a niche sword to begin with? I mean, why could it have been a sword like Excalibur, or Kusanagi? You know, swords that are actually a big deal. I've heard the name Kusanagi before, but I don't know much of anything about it. No, this wasn't the time to piss and moan. Niche or mainstream, I didn't care as long as it could save me. I decided to research it a bit more. Continuing, I clicked a second link. Okay, no. I want to go back and read those, so hold on just a minute. Okay, continuing from where I left off. Unlike other holy/cursed swords, these swords are characterized by their unique invisibility. It is said that the moment one of these seemingly unarmed warriors swung their arms, the sharp slice caused their opponent's arm to be severed from their body and fall to the ground before they could even feel the pain, much like the kamaitachi phenomenon. You know, I bet if I Googled some of these terms, I could probably get some pretty big spoilers for the story ahead of time.
God damn it.
A few moments later.
Ancient legends often contain settings that transcend theories of all creation, and as such, this sword has made appearances in several pseudepigrapha, is that how you say that? Books and various other mediums. These swords and the kamaitachi phenomenon are considered to be practically synonymous. Kamaitachi, meanwhile, are imaginary specters that are sometimes depicted as weasels with sharp sickles for arms, but this interpretation can only be attributed to a faithful recreation of people's imaginations over many years. If one were to describe the beings in works, Kamiachi would be spirits of the wind, entities of a very weak presence in reality. However, the truth of the phenomenon has already been verified by modern science. The slices are said to be caused by a naturally occurring phenomenon in places where the air is incredibly dry, and the vacuum-like conditions present in such places causes cuts to appear on the skin.
でもセナって女が持ってたのに比べるとこっちは随分地味だな。
Related entry, the Gladio Saga, a series of high fantasy novels based on the Eastern European myth of Gladio, the wicked-hearted king. Told over the course of 23 volumes, it depicts the battle between the 7 Black Knights and Gladio. 7 Black Knights. Well, if you count Rimi, then I think we've seen 3 so far. If that's what these wielders of these D-swords are. It was written by R.C.O. Ziegler. Wait, Ziegler. I've heard that name somewhere. Where the hell did I hear it from? One of the New Gen murders, I think? If I remember for sure, I'll post it on the screen. From 1929 to 1951. The series has been translated into several languages, but it never gained widespread appeal due to its rather esoteric writing style. Okay. Now we got that out of the way. Continuing, I clicked the second link. The words, "I bought a D-sword," caught my eye specifically. Were D-swords something you could buy? The blog owner seemed to be male, so I could deduce that it couldn't be the demon girl or Sena. Okay, continuing from where I left off on that link. Even then, though, Occupus stores don't really scratch that itch for me, you know? All they've really got is computers or porn or stuff like that. Can't say the same for TV, though. There used to be all sorts of shady shops in Shibuya. Really shows my age. But they've been washed away along with the flow of time. Man, those were the days. Lol. What's amazing to me, though, is that if you don't know any better, TV totally looks like a store for noobs. LMAO. New tip, WTF. Oh, wait. There was another tip in here I gotta read. W2F. Net slang, short for what the fuck. An expletive used to represent any number of emotions, such as anger, surprise, confusion, etc. A popular alternative to the shortened TF, e.g., TF is going on. Anyway, the Kamiatachi phenomenon. An extremely rare phenomenon in which the body is suddenly marked with a wound as if it had been cut by a sharp blade. Kamaitachi are wind yokai from the I'm getting tongue twisted with these names. Koshinetsu region of Japan. They have sharp sickle-like claws on both hands, which local legend states are used to cut their victims, causing the phenomenon described above. The true cause behind why this phenomenon occurs has not yet been ascertained. Already read that in that webpage, so anything else I missed? No. Was he a completely unrelated third party? Or could he have deliberately changed his writing style? What the fuck? I knew that no answer would come to me no matter how much I thought about it, so I gave up and stopped looking at the blog. More importantly, it seemed the store he mentioned, Town Vanguard, was located in Shibuya. I'm still wondering though, who the hell named the thing a D-sword? Lol. It's this pretty huge toy, and it's got this real oomph to it, yeah. But even then, I'll bet my money on the fact that the only reason it's at the store at all is because of the clerk, Yo-chan's interest. Yo-chan. I mean, they recently put up a fancy weapons section in one of the corners of the store, so... lol. There was obviously a bunch of stuff, like a lightsaber and a light shuriken. But they were obviously fake. It was pretty disappointing, to be honest. I had the feeling that it was too good to be true, but I also had the feeling that it was predestined too. Looking at it from another angle, maybe the exact reason I run into a girl holding a D-sword in the middle of Shibuya twice was because the store was located there. Wait, wasn't underground stuff like this supposed to secretly be popular among a few minority groups in Shibuya? Pretty sure it was. Anyway, I went ahead and ran a search for Town Vanguard. It didn't seem to have an official site, but I did find a preview image of it on an online map. If they didn't have an official site, that probably meant they didn't take online orders. I tried searching for them as a seller on Taboo Auctions, but I didn't find anything, which meant that I'd have to go to the store in person. I really didn't want to go outside, but...
剣は手に入れなくちゃ。手に入れないとダメなんだ。
Or we could get someone who already has a sword. I had now come to think of the sword as my sole, only means of opposing the demon girl. I didn't have any idea what I would actually do after I got it, though. I certainly wasn't brave enough to kill her with it. Not even close. Which is why I suggest you get someone else who already has one. I'm sure they'd be brave enough for it. Even so, I had hoped that if I got my hands on a sword, I would be released somewhat from the terror that was tormenting me. The D-sword would be my protective charm. Something I could depend on. There was something strangely alluring about that sword. I think I've seen that guy before. I think he's got a new sign. God has chosen... I can't read what the rest of that says. It seems like the store was located somewhere near Cat Street. Cat Street was a long, winding road next to Mijidori that ran from Shibuya to Harajuku. Apparently, it had been built on top of an old stream that had been reclaimed a while back. There were a bunch of reasons as to why people started calling it Cat Street, such as it being frequented by feral cats, or that it was so narrow that only cats could use it. But it wasn't like it made a difference to me either way. Cat Street was pretty far away from my base. It took about 15 to 20 minutes to get there on foot. It'd be much faster by bike, but unfortunately, I didn't have one. I decided to take a route that went past the front of the station, then through Shota via cutting through Miyashita Park. Quickening my pace a bit, I crossed the overpass that went over Mijidori. Whew. Finally arrived. I was starting to get really impatient. The sheer distance was pissing me off. Cat Street was nice and quiet compared to Senergai, and felt much more like Harajuku than Shibuya. The stores lining the streets here were only aimed at the trend chasers I wanted nothing to do with. Fuck them, to be honest. Trend chaser. A highly fashion conscious person who constantly changes their fashion sense depending on what is currently popular. Lies of more than just fashion. Knowing how out of place I was just made me all the more pissed off. It was completely foreign territory. Every last one of the assholes around me thought they were so damn cool. There were even more couples sauntering around than in the shopping district. Whatever. They were probably just a bunch of broke shitheads trying to pretend they had money, so they were likely just window shopping. LMAO. Waste of space. You keep projecting. Sooner or later, you'll probably get one of them. You'll probably get one of them accurately. Well, what I mean is, well, you'll probably be right about one of them being as bitter, broke, and thoroughly as depressing as you are. I still feel like I didn't explain that properly. I was starting to get to regret coming here at all, but I remind myself that all the suffering would be worth it once I get a sword. So I just sucked it up and kept walking. In order to avoid making eye contact with anyone, I kept my eyes firmly trained on my map as I speed walked toward my destination. Town Vanguard was deep into a narrow side road that split off from Cat Street.
ここか
Even though I'd only gone one side street away from the main road, the atmosphere had changed dramatically. It was a narrow, cramped, filthy alley that no car could travel through. The street was lined with wooden houses, out-of-business stores with closed shutters, and the inevitable spray-painted graffiti that covered said shutters. Despite how nice it looked from the outside of all its high-class name-brand stores, Cat Street 2 was nothing more than a superficial facade. And behind that facade lay a whole host of broken-down, mercilessly discarded junk heaps. Then again, I couldn't stand the place either way. Both the bullshit and the truth were foreign territory for me. The only home for me was ESO. Even for the back streets, though, Town Vanguard had an even smaller, darker atmosphere than I was expecting. I was finally starting to get why the blogger had called it shady. Even though an open sign was hanging on the door, it didn't exactly look like business was booming. And that was being generous. Thanks to that, it was extremely hard to convince myself to go in. How was I, a guy who couldn't even go into a gyudon shop by himself, supposed to enter a sketchy-ass store like this? I got an idea. Put the presence of the demon girl behind you. That'll motivate you. I wanted to go home. No. I need to get my hands on a sword, no matter what. What should I do? I spent a little while trying and failing to get myself to go in. Not a single person came through the cramped alley. I had already spent 30 minutes waffling over what to do. Dear God. But I still hadn't seen a single soul since I'd gone off the road. All that happened was I would finally decide to suck it up and go in, but then I would realize I wasn't brave enough. Repeat ad nauseum. But I couldn't go home empty-handed. This is the only place I could get my hands on a D-sword. I need a damn drink. Okay, my throat feels a little less parched now. Even though my sense of reason told me that, my instincts made me hesitate to enter the shop. In my mind, I had a delusion where the clerk came out to me. Of course, she was a cute maid, and she talked to me with a voice straight out of an anime. She knew exactly what I wanted, and she held a D-sword out to me, friendly as could be. Here you are. Please take this sword, master. Okay, that's enough. Chill out, me. Just as I was thinking about how much nicer it'd be if things turned out that way, a lone 3D girl appeared from within the store, almost like she'd somehow heard my thoughts. However, unlike my delusion, she was wearing disgustingly gaudy clothes. The type that made you think, what Indian tribe did she steal those from? But at the same time, despite the getup, she looked absolutely miserable. Talk about whiplash. Her hair was incredibly frizzy, to the point where it looked like her head had exploded, and creepy patterns were scrawled on the bandana she had twisted around it. She said that she was a store worker, and had come out after seeing me pacing outside. My delusion hadn't exactly become reality, but it wasn't like I had expected it to. Before I knew what was happening, the clerk forcibly showed me inside, despite how reluctant I was to do so. I didn't even have the chance to turn her down. I want that suit of armor.
Soft shells! Cower before me!
How much? In the end, I found myself inside the store. It was all well and good that I'd cleared the most difficult obstacle, but if this store was under the demon girl's control, and everything about the D-sword was just an elaborate trap to lure me to it, I wouldn't be allowed to complain if I got killed right here. My eyes darted around the store's dim interior. There wasn't a single customer. The air was awfully stagnant and slightly hazy. The unpleasant odor of tobacco and mold mixed together and invaded my nostrils. I felt like I was going to be sick if I stayed here for any more than 5 minutes. Though I saw things that looked like products, it was difficult to judge whether or not they were actually for sale. All of them had been placed haphazardly, and there was no way to distinguish them from just plain old garbage. And it didn't help that not a single one of them had a price tag. I didn't notice it until after I'd come in, but there were a whole lot of porn and sex toys. Where? I don't see any. Among them were devices you'd see in rape/humiliation type of rogue, and I had no idea where to find a safe place to look. The store must have been a variety shop for adults or something. After forcing me into the store, the clerk sat down on a stool behind the counter, then proceeded to zone out as she smoked. She showed no indication that she was going to continue meddling with me. She was probably a partial source of the haze in here. Even though it'd been less than a minute since I'd come in, anxiety, a weird sense of pressure, and the embarrassment all combined with how sick I was feeling in the form of a disgusting sweat seeping out of my forehead. I wanted to get out of this otherworldly place as soon as possible. I had to hurry up and find a D-sword, quick. I walked toward the back as I looked through the store. I soon found the fancy weapons section, which had been mentioned in the blog I'd found. This corner of the store was the only one that stood out to me. Numerous pole-shaped toys were neatly displayed. All the toys were tubes of some sort. They were different colors, but pretty much all of them were lightsabers. You could tell pretty easily from how shoddy they were that they were all bootleg. I doubted they would even glow. It seemed like the light shuriken talked about in the blog was sold out. which surprised me. Yet, mixed in with the lightsabers was a single item that was clearly different from the rest. It only took one look for me to know it was a D-sword. It looked almost exactly like the illustration I'd seen online. So it does. I went to pick it up. It was unexpectedly light. I wondered what it was made of, but it definitely seemed like some sort of soft vinyl. It wasn't sharp at all. The edges were slippery, and naturally, it didn't hurt me in the slightest when I ran my fingers across it. Compared to the one Sena and FES had, it was badly designed, had no sense of weight, and above all else, it didn't give me a sense that it would sever anything with just the slightest touch. Could it be a fake? That worried me, but there wasn't anything else in the store that resembled a D-sword. Would this even give off light at all? The D-sword FES had swung around at her show had pieces of glass embedded in it that gave off a blue light and looked extremely badass. But I didn't see a single shard of glass in the sword I was holding. Maybe I shouldn't buy it. The D-sword was so shoddily made that I couldn't help but come to that conclusion, despite how long it had taken me to get to here. But find a sword. If you do, you'll be granted salvation. I remembered FES's words. Right. If I didn't buy it right here and now, I'd lose my only chance of getting my hands on a D-sword. Maybe it only looked cheap, but once it recognized me as its true master, incredible power would manifest within it. Or maybe I'd seen too much anime, or read one too many manga. But I had sensed that exact kind of unknown power in Sena and FES's swords. So this sword should have it too, but... what to do? While my internal debate raged on, the clerk came up and stood right behind me without me noticing. With a melancholic smirk, she pointed at the D-sword and muttered, 10,000 yen, and I'll throw in a free bonus. How absurdly cheap it was made me doubt my own ears at first. I had amassed quite a bit of cash from RMT, and if it was only 10,000 yen, I could buy it simply by sacrificing a single figure. When I heard the price, and when I realized that it was the last one they had left, I'd come to an immediate decision. The bonus that had come with it was a cheap-looking bangle. To be frank, I didn't want it in the slightest. Everything after that was hell. Town Vanguard didn't do deliveries, so my only option was to lug it home myself. Toy or not, my excitement died instantly when I realized I had to carry this stupidly long sword right through the heart of Shibuya. Well, unfortunately for you, I think it is just a toy. And when trouble comes knocking, you're gonna learn that the hard way. But I'd already paid for it, and the clerk adamantly refused to let me return it. This was a really intense form of humiliation roleplay. Having to haul a huge toy like this down a fancy street. Just as I'd come to expect, the Dokyun couples, dolled up grills, and whatever manner of sheep that passed me by all had those exact same mocking smiles. Damn it, one of you should just kill yourselves. I focused intently on keeping my head down for the rest of the way home, having delusions all the way about swinging my newly bought D-sword at the innocent people in the middle of the road, viciously slaughtering piles and piles of them. You wouldn't have the balls. Finally made it back. I started running when I was about halfway home, and I didn't stop until I got there, so I was gasping for air by the time I reached my base. The ice-cold stares of the pedestrians were killing me. It was somewhat impressive that Sena was able to endure this kind of embarrassment all the time. In a way, I even respected her for it. I could never do what she did. You clearly were not paying attention to what she was saying. Given what she was saying, I think it's obvious that the only people who could see her toy sword were both herself and you. I hear someone fumbling around with the figure collection. Suddenly, a sound came from a blind spot in the shadow of my base. Was someone there? Freezing in my tracks, I gulped. The pure white smile of the demon girl who called herself Rimi appeared in my mind. Maybe she'd come back. Maybe this time she'd kill me for real. What should I do? Should I run? I sensed a presence. The light of the sunset etched someone's shadow onto the ground. One that I knew, without a shadow of a doubt, had to be female. I immediately readied my D-sword. When I actually tried holding it like that, though, it felt even less reliable than I expected it to. Sena's sword had felt incredibly intimidating, and had this sense of overwhelming pressure that wouldn't allow anyone to get near it. But the D-sword I was holding didn't feel like that at all. Maybe it really was a fake. Could I really fight with something like this? There was no way. Even if I had a real one, I still couldn't do it. Not only that, but I hadn't realized how heavy it really was until I first started holding it just now. Maybe I was holding it wrong. In any case, it would be impossible to even swing it like this. The shadow suddenly wavered. It was approaching me. I shut my eyes tight and haphazardly swung the sword in front of me. I knew I wouldn't be able to defeat my enemy this way. Even so, I had the faint hope that, as long as I had this sword, it'd somehow do something anyway. But I didn't feel it hit anything. Nor did my enemy make a sound. I couldn't believe it. Could that single strike of mine have utterly annihilated Demon Girl? If so, that'd be the best shit to ever happen to.
鬼、その剣何？
I had a feeling it was her. Hey there, Nanami. When I opened my eyes, the one standing there wasn't a demon girl, but rather Nanami. She was looking at me with unmistakably judgmental eyes, and unmistakably judgmental lips. All my strength disappeared instantly, and I dropped to the ground right where I'd been standing.
お前、脅かすなよ。
She was the worst little sister ever. Didn't she know how shitty it was to scare her own older brother like this, let alone enjoy it? I don't know, she doesn't look like she's enjoying herself to me. Who the hell did she think she was? The little sister of the most obnoxious NEET in all of Shibuya? This was exactly why 3D would always pale in comparison to 2D.
別に脅かしてないよ。いつもみたいにお兄の生存確認しに来てあげたんじゃん。なのにお兄いないんだもん。なんでナナが30分もお兄のこと心配しながら待ってなくちゃいけないわけ？ナナの貴重な時間が無駄に消えてっちゃったじゃん。お兄のバカ。
Worried? This bitch was worried about me? And you keep proving her remarks about you right. Jerk. As if I would ever fall for such an obvious lie.
で、どこ行ってたの？出かけるなんて珍しいじゃん。携帯にかけても繋がんないし。
I left my phone behind at my base. It wasn't like anyone was going to call me while I was out, so I'd see no point in bringing it. Well, you were proven wrong. She called you while you were out.
そもそも、その剣何なの？もしかして買ってきたの？
Nanami peered curiously at the sword.
あ、わかった。アニメのおもちゃかなんかでしょ？ほんと、お兄ってオタクさんだね。
Very interesting style that they're doing with her eyes, where some of her facial expressions show a pupil, whereas her normal-looking ones don't.
しかもこのおもちゃ、ちっとも似合ってないよ。さっきだってへっぴり腰で構えちゃってて、思い出したら笑えてきた。
Well, now she's enjoying it. Only retroactively were your remarks proven right. Ignoring Nanami, I undid the lock on the door to the container house and made to go inside.
ちょっと無視すんな。
帰れ。
If she'd just come to check if I was alive, then she got what she wanted, and she no longer had any reason to be here. She was always making fun of me. Every time she came over, she would do nothing but complain. Well, stop being such a complaint-worthy individual. And she'd stop. You ever think of that? If she was really that put off by being here, then she didn't have to come at all. It was annoying anyway. It'd be no skin off my back if she stopped.
あのね、わざわざ様子見に来てあげてんだから、もっとありがたがってよ。せっかくお土産まで持ってきたのに。
Her voice was whiny as could be, and she pursed her lips.
お土産？
そう、お母さんが持ってけって。ほら。
Nanami handed me a bag of clementines. There were about 10 of them, wrapped up in red netting. Weird. Something's fishy here. I'd eat clementines if they were right in front of me, but they weren't my favorite food or anything.
というわけで、ナナもちょっと一服したいから一緒に食べてあげる。
帰れ。
もう、妹がお土産持ってきて、しかも一緒に食べてあげるって言ってるんだよ。もっと喜びなよ。
What exactly about eating clementines with Nanami was supposed to make me feel happy at all? I'm not even gonna justify that question of a response. And besides, it was obvious that she just wanted to eat clementines, and that was the whole reason why she'd come here. She'd been a fat ass ever since we were little, often stealing my portion to add to hers. I couldn't count the amount of times we'd fought over that. Nanami, unable to take a hint, waltzed right into my base. I think she gets the hint, she's just flat out ignoring it. For your own good. I gave up and followed in after her.
お茶ある？あったかいのがいいな。
Why the hell would I have tea? I only drink cola and nothing else. Nanami sat down on the sofa and grabbed a clementine. Sighing, I set down the D-sword, so I'd lean against my computer desk. I had no reason to continue carrying the bangle in my pocket, so I just chucked it somewhere behind me.
あれ？それ何？
Quickly spying the bangle I'd thrown to the floor, Nanami went to pick it up.
へえ、かわいいバングルじゃん。
Now that is a very interesting design. Looks important. Wait a freaking minute. Let me guess. Are the D swords that we've seen Sena, FES, and Rimi manifest triggered by little bangles like these? I wonder.
これも買ってきたの？お兄にしてはいいセンス。
Cute. How? The thing that was nothing more than a piece of junk you get for 500 yen at worst. I couldn't believe how bad Nanami's taste was. Oh, wait. Is she gonna pick it up and this bangle is gonna have some kind of weird reaction and thus allow Nanami to manifest a D sword of her own? Is that what's about to happen here? Because that'd be funny. Ignoring her once again, I nabbed one of the clementines and sat down in front of my PC.
ねえねえ、なんでこれ捨てちゃうの？
だっていらないし。
じゃあさ、これナナにちょうだい。
はあ？
いいじゃん、どうせ捨てるならさ。たまにはお兄ちゃんらしく妹にプレゼントの一つでもしてよ。
You call it a present, but it's just something I don't want that you suddenly decide to appropriate.
勝手に持ってけば。
本当？やったー。
Literally walking PMS. As soon as she'd gotten my approval, she put the bangle on her wrist. Takes a real cheap whore to get this excited over such a cheap piece of junk.
お兄、どう？似合う？
全然。
おっそ。お兄のバーカ。
It was supposed to be a present, so why was she treating me like this? Little sisters weren't supposed to call their brother mean names. Well, big brothers aren't supposed to call their little sisters fat asses and cheap whores. What were they teaching girls nowadays? Go play 100 Eroge this instant!
バーカ。
She was grinning from ear to ear. I, meanwhile, was getting extremely pissed off.
これ気に入っちゃったからもう返さないもんね。っていうか、お兄からプレゼントもらうなんて初めてのような気がする。
Now that's just sad.
しょうがないから大事にしてあげるよ。
As if I cared. No one asked you to take care of it. I didn't even get it for you in the first place.
もう用は済んだんだから帰れ。僕は暇じゃないんだ。邪魔するな。
The moment I said that, Nanami pursed her lips.
そんな言い方しなくてもいいじゃん。それにみかんまだ食べてないし、お茶もまだ出してもらってないよ。
おめえに飲ませるお茶はね。
Nanami glared at me intently, hands on her hips. Before long, her eyes started welling up, and then...
わかったよ。そんなに邪魔なら帰る。
ああ、さっさと頼む。
お兄のバカ。お兄なんてみかんの皮で目つぶし食らって失明しちゃえ。あとバングルは返さないかんね。バーカ。
Yelling in a migraine-inducing voice that resounded throughout the entire room. You called that migraine-inducing? Nanami grabbed her bag and ran out with insane speed. Oh, thank God. It was finally over. Hanging out with Nanami always took everything out of me. Why'd she insist on coming here every week when I made it very clear I was sick of it? Read the room, for fuck's sake. Probably because she's very, very, very intent on reaching out to you. Because she cares, and hello.
ファーストメルトは期待以上の結果に終わりました。GE レートの上昇率は当初の予測からわずかな誤差があった程度です。
バイオリズムコントロールも順調なのかね。
渋谷の GE レートは他のエリアと比べて高い値を持っていると同時に安定性についても特筆したものがあります。
それゆえに意図的に操作しやすいということか。そして渋谷にいる人々のバイオリズムを急激に引き上げることもまた。
実験結果についてはレポートをご参照ください。納得していただける成果を上げております。
貴様が成果を出すのは当然だ。そのために高い金と多くの人材を提供しているのだからな。
実効性については理解しているよ。この数ヶ月だけでも我が会の信者が数倍に膨れ上がっているからね。
それではプロジェクトノアは次の段階へと進ませます。よろしいですね。
コードサンプルの件はどうするのだ。すでに3人分は確保したとはいえ、目標数値には達しておらんではないか。
いかにも。数値達成のためには最低でも5人分はなければ厳しい。
サンプル保持者は集まりつつあります。あとは採取するのみ。
Project Noah Code Sample Carriers. My first thought when I think of sample carriers having been gathered are the people with D swords and apparently Takumi. But we've got 4 people so far, including Takumi, and that, if that's indeed what they're referencing here, we're still missing our number 5. Anyway, what's this tip that I saw earlier? Biorhythm. A graph showing the clinical changes in the physiological state, emotional imbalance, intelligence of a biological organism. The term is often employed with the explanation of, on days when an organism's biorhythm is high, they will be in good condition, but on days when the organism's biorhythm is low, they will be in poor condition. So, yeah, clearly going by what they're talking about, they are conducting some kind of mass human experiment involving numerous residents in Shibuya. So, what exactly is this experiment, I wonder?
ならばその件は任せる。
信仰の救いあれ。くれぐれも慎重にことを進めるように。
はい、心得ております。
Yeah, they also mentioned a church. That's right, almost forgot about that. What's this church?
そろそろ寝るか。
Membership of this church they mentioned has also been growing. My first thought and as to what that could possibly relate to is the growing fanatical following that the new gen murders seem to be inspiring, and seeing people like some of these guys, like that guy on the street with those signs of his. But past that, I don't know what else exactly they could be referencing. Either way, a very, very interesting little scene. With the cherry on top, or rather the monitor on top, being the whole Nozomi logo being present. So I think we can definitely confirm one thing for sure. There is definitely a huge coordinated effort going on all throughout Shibuya, and I think it's all tied to this Nozomi group. So in that sense, I was right. Stifling a yawn, I looked back at the clock on my PC. It was 5 a.m. I spent another entire day grinding on ESO, but no monsters had ended up dropping the rare items I was looking for. I've been bringing it for about 8 hours straight, but still no luck. That happened to me all the time, though. I glanced over to the side of my computer desk. The D-sword I'd bought yesterday was still leaning against it. I had set it there within reach of me so I could grab it at any moment. Speaking of the sword, the damn thing hadn't glowed at all. I've been hoping that it transformed into something new, some new badass form, like the one Sena had, but I've been similarly out of luck there too. Probably because, like what I'm currently speculating, that little bangle that you gave to Nanami has something to do with it. On my monitor, Grim's avatar had just leveled up. My Nightheart was already max level, so he wouldn't go any higher. It's probably about time to make a new character. My third after Lizolette, I thought to myself as I rubbed my sleepy eyes. EXP sure was something. It was a well-known concept in RPGs, but I figured EXP existed in real life too. In a matter of speaking, it does. Back when I first started playing ESO, I'd been a total nobody who didn't know right from left, but now I was known far and wide as Lightning Fast Nineheart, the most powerful player in Baselard. Let's say the person controlling me had lost a chunk of my EXP for some reason or another. If that happened, then it would make complete sense why I'd forgotten things. That could also be where the discrepancies in my memory had come from. Things like Shogun and the Demon Girl. Before a chunk of my EXP got wiped, maybe it was perfectly normal for me, the person controlling me, to post in chat rooms under the handle Shogun. And for me to live like a complete normie with the Demon Girl. No, that just wasn't possible. But if it was possible, then maybe I'd use it to possess an incredible power that would allow me to oppose the Demon Girl. Was I the only person who thought like this? I didn't really feel like it was a particularly weird way of thinking. Human beings can only make judgments based on their own sense of values that they come up with themselves. So maybe it wasn't just me living my day-to-day life, making the wrong decisions, but everyone in the entire world. I don't know, there's lots and lots of people who don't come up with their own values. They're just imposed on them, and they just happily accept them. We call them sheeple, but that's a wholly different discussion. Back when I was little, I'd gone to the dentist, and I remembered them telling me, "You did such a good job putting up with that much pain. You were a very good patient." At the time, I thought I was amazing for making it through to the end, and I felt really proud of myself. Thinking back on it now, though, that comment was probably based on the degree of pain felt compared to the progression of the cavity. But even if the level of pain was the same, there would be people that could bear the pain, and there would be people who couldn't. In other words, I came to realize that how someone recognized and felt such sensations completely depended on the person. Childbirth, for example. I'd often seen on the internet that women could endure the pain of it, but it would be completely impossible for men. Another example would be marathon runners. Maybe they excelled not because of their physical strength, but because of their ability to endure pain. There were also sadists and masochists. If there were people that found pleasure in being hurt, there would also be people who that derived pleasure from hurting others. In other words, I believed that the way people felt things, along with their ability to handle pain and suffering, all varied from person to person. It goes without saying. Perhaps the level of pain in the toothaches and headaches I got from time to time actually far surpassed the limits of pain an ordinary person could take. And if that were true, then perhaps if I'd passed the same pain on to someone else, the sheer agony would cause them to go into shock and die. The conclusion I ended up coming to as a result of this line of thinking was more or less a self-righteous delusion. That perhaps I was special.
特殊な人間か。っていうか、何を大げさな。
Although I denied it, I was sure that every person had delusions like this. Every man longs to be the strongest in the world. Every human being wants to think that they're special, that they're the chosen one. We all want to think that a dramatic story full of twists and turns, like the ones you'd find on in TV and movies, is waiting for us in the future. The so-called desire to be a hero, or to be blunt, textbook chunibu shit. Of course, even I had those kind of desires. It could very well be my destiny to triumph over the demon girl. But if that was really my destiny, and I had to make it come true, I need a number of conditions to be met first. At the very least, I absolutely needed the ability to use cheats. Be it cheat codes for special attacks, or maybe even a god mode of some kind. I didn't want to deal with pain or fear. Well, you're already been dealing with a shit ton of fear at this point. So I don't think any cheat code's going to help you with that. Video game terminology. To modify game data using game-altering tools. In recent years, many video games have been equipped with cheats intentionally by developers. Secret commands are one type of cheat code. Well, they're not so common anymore. Last I checked, at least not in the traditional sense. Nowadays, most quote-unquote cheat codes I see tend to be sold as DLC. I miss the good old days of gaming so much. If I couldn't cheat in some way, or in other words, if I was supposed to achieve that with my own power, there was no way I'd be able to do it. Which was why, if the person controlling me had lost all of my EXP, that would be a huge blow to me. A super effective one. I just barely got to school on time. It probably wasn't the best idea to stay up playing video until early in the morning on a school night. I had to run in order to make it on time. When I got to the classroom door, I stopped and took deep breaths to try and catch my breath. I couldn't act in a way that'd make me stand out to my classmates. For me, even something like being late would be fatal. If the Dokuns' eyes all zeroed in on me, my life would be over. I slowly made my way into the classroom, keeping my head down. I couldn't let myself make eye contact with anyone. Of course, I didn't give a mindless greeting like good morning either. Trying to make my presence as undetectable as possible, I made myself invisible and turned toward my seat. Is Misumi around? I'd kind of like to have a conversation with him about our good old friend Rimi. Now, that was how I always did things. And today was no different. I made it to my seat without any issue and sat down. Soon after, I laid my head and arms face down on the desk. And from there, I was safe until homeroom started. But I only got to relax for a split second before someone's hand clapped against my back.
よ、タク。今週は3回も学校来てんじゃねえか。真面目だな。
Misumi-kun again. Even though he was really getting on my nerves, I'd feel bad if I ignored him, so I started to reluctantly raise my head, only to hesitate. Was this Misumi-kun? The real one? 2 days ago, I'd done what the demon girl told me to do and called him. When I talked to him, he'd been very clearly acting strange. I mean, he told me that Rimi, our classmate, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world, which I hadn't expected at all. Maybe the demon girl had brainwashed him. Or maybe it was something else. Maybe the person controlling him had been switched out.
おい、どうした？早くも爆睡モードか？
An electric sound suddenly rang throughout the classroom. I felt a faint vibration near my chest. Ah, you brought your phone with you, huh? It was my cell phone. Shit. Now of all times? What kind of asshole would call me at a time like this? And not only was my phone going off, but even though I was sure I'd set it to vibrate, the ringtone was going off too. I guess I must have messed up the settings.
お、鳴ってるぞ、タク。
Yes, I know, goddammit! Should I just answer it? Yes? If I did that, Misumi-kun would know I was faking being asleep. Besides, I didn't like talking on the phone. But also if I didn't pick it up, it would annoy the rest of the class. And considering how it was ringing loudly throughout the classroom, it had to be doing that already. I wasn't supposed to stand out. This was really, really bad.
おーい、出ないのか？マジで寝てる？
Damn it. While I'd been freaking out over what to do, I already lost my chance. I couldn't move now. The sound and vibration stopped. The call must have gone to voicemail. I let out a sigh of relief soft enough that Misumi-kun wouldn't be able to hear it. It was definitely the right call for me to have figured out how to use the voicemail function.
なあ、タク。相手は誰だ？まさか女か？この前一緒に帰ったあのメガネの子だろ。そうなんだろ？
Damn it, you're so annoying. I just wanted him to stop bothering me. That phone call had already made me stand out way too much. Had Misumi-kun always been this persistent? Though he had always been way too friendly with me, I thought he at least had the capacity to take a hint.
やめなよ。
Here we go. I heard a voice from right next to Misumi-kun.
そっとしておいてあげたら、大臣。なんだか疲れてるみたいだし。
She was here in my classroom. Like it was the most normal thing in the world.
どうせゲームのやりすぎだろ。お前、タクに甘すぎるぜ。
だって大臣は女の敵だし、そういう人には優しくしません。
They were having a friendly conversation like it was the most normal thing in the world. She was blending in like it was the most normal thing in the world. I was too scared to look up. I didn't want to acknowledge that she was there.
ま、別にお前に優しくしてもらわなくても、俺には優しくしてくれる女はたくさんいるんだよ。
だからそういう発言が良くないんだってば。彼女さんが聞いたら泣くよ。今の大臣の彼女が誰だかわかんないけど。ほら、チャイム鳴った。先生来るよ。
Had the demon girl really been my classmate all along? No, there was no way. She hadn't been here 2 days ago. Or at the very least, the only person that had spoken to me that day was Misumi-kun. I hadn't gone to school yesterday, so I wasn't sure about that one. But when I came today, she was here. How? How she managed to worm her way in? Everyone took their seats once the sound of the bell announced the start of homeroom. Sensing that, I looked up cautiously. I surveyed the room with just my eyes. I wanted the voice from earlier to have just been an illusion. In order to prove that to myself, I needed to make sure that the demon girl was nowhere to be found in the classroom. I didn't see her. I didn't see anything that even remotely resembled her. Did that mean she really was a hallucination? My seat was in the 5th row from the front. There were 9 rows in total. She wasn't in any of the rows in front of me, which meant she was behind me. But I couldn't turn around. I couldn't allow myself to stand out. Damn it, this was so frustrating. Was she really here in my classroom or not? I didn't feel chills on the back of my neck. No one was looking at me. I didn't feel a gaze. Was she here? Or not here? Which was it? Still staring at the surface of the desk, I tried to detect her just by her presence alone. And right as I tried, I heard my homeroom teacher enter the classroom. I didn't remember the teacher's name. I had a feeling that it was a Sukaji, or Sukada, or something like that. He was a PE teacher that graduated from an athletic college, and he was a total musclehead. However, he didn't really act like it, nor did he employ corporal punishment like one might expect him to. If anything, he was the type of teacher that knew how to take a joke. For some reason, the class all started murmuring about something. But right now, I was occupied with trying to detect a demon girl. Did I really expect to be able to sense her by presence alone? This wasn't some manga. Was I an idiot?
今日から転校生が入ることになった。
My homeroom teacher mumbled that to the class. Oh, so that was why the room was so noisy.
ほら、折原、みんなに挨拶しろ。
I didn't hear the supposed transfer students say anything. Was there really no one here? I glanced toward the door. Well, look who it is. I was wondering when you would show, and sure enough, there was someone there. She was extremely petite, possibly even more so than Nanami. She looked fairly timid, emulating that moe gets bullied all the time archetype. If I had to choose, she was probably around mid-tier when it came to 3D girls. For some reason, she was looking down at the floor, her eyes filled with tears. Wouldn't it be nice if the transfer student were some holy messenger sent here to protect me and slay the demon? Whoever Rimi was, I had no doubt she was dangerous. My life was being eroded, and I knew that for a fact. Unless things changed, I'd be a dead man walking.
だから私が来たの。
Suddenly, the transfer student turned her gaze toward me and whispered that. No way.
たくみくん、私はここに殺すために来ました。悪魔を滅ぼします。
I'm sure the demon girl is quaking in her boots at the sight of you. Even though the transfer student's eyes were welling with tears, they were also filled with determination. Despite her timid appearance, I felt like I could trust her. There was no doubt that, from an outsider's perspective, her words were blatantly nonsensical. I was the only person in the sea of confused people who wasn't perplexed by her first words. In fact, I was screaming for joy. Internally, of course. I'm saved. No doubt. An exorcist organization sent this girl to dispose of Rimi. Fuck yeah! Kill that bitch! Rimi's panicked voice rang from behind me.
その転校生の狙いは私じゃないタクだよ。その子の言うことを聞いちゃダメ。悪魔さん、惑わすのはやめなさい。あなたはここで終わりです。悪魔はあなたでしょ。
うるさいな。
Right now, I didn't care who the real demon was, nor who my real ally was. I think you should care.
僕はブラチューと演奏をして毎日を平穏に過ごせればそれでいいんだ。お前たちがどうなろうか知ったことじゃない。とりあえず2人で殺し合ってくれると助かる。で、相打ちで2人とも死亡ってエンディングを希望。
Following those words, I could feel a rising unease spread throughout the room. A transfer student whose name I didn't know, and a demon girl who had only been in this class since the day before yesterday, each glaring daggers at each other from their own separate corners of the room, the tension between them burning like a fuse, trailing toward a pack of TNT. The homeroom teacher and the rest of the students were on the edge of their seats, watching intently as the events unfolded.
いいよ。タクの言う通りにしてあげる。私も異論はないです。殺してあげろ。暗殺者。あなたを殺します、悪魔さん。
And then, they both sprang into action. Well, that was very anticlimactic. Of course, something like that would never actually happen. Or will it? The transfer student remained as sheepish as ever, not uttering so much as a peep. Rimi also didn't say a word. In fact, she didn't give any indication that she was here at all. The scattered whispers grew to murmurs as the new transfer student maintained her silence. So, in order to comfort her, the teacher placed his hand on her shoulder.
どうやら折原は緊張しているようだな。よし、挨拶はいい。みんな、この子は折原梢だ。仲良くしてやってくれ。折原、席は一番後ろだ。席についていいぞ。
The transfer student made her way to the back without saying a word, keeping her head low to the ground. Her seat was 4 rows behind mine. Should I pretend to watch her so I could catch a glimpse of the people behind me? Problem was, that drew a lot of unwanted attention to myself. I didn't want any Dokuns trying to pick a fight. Oh, don't go staring at her just because she's cute, or some BS like that. I was at a loss for what to do. Should I look now, or should I wait until class is over? My head still firmly pressed against my desk. I squeezed my fists tightly. Forget it. I was a coward. Just the thought of that, if I turned around, my eyes would meet with that girl's, sent shivers down my spine.
その人って
Huh?
悪い人なの？だったらね、本当に殺してあげてもいいよ。
Is that you, Saratan? The transfer student walked right by my seat. Taken aback, I glanced at her face. Our eyes met, only for her to immediately avert her gaze and continue walking. What was that voice? No doubt just been another one of my delusions. I've been feeling overwhelmed by them lately, almost as if reality and delusion were blending together. Still lacking the courage to turn around, my body stiffened even further, squeezing inward in my seat. I tried to focus on staying completely still, desperately trying to avoid drawing Rimi's attention. All my new fears and doubts zoomed through my mind at 1,000,000 kilometers an hour. And before I knew it, homeroom had ended. First period would begin in about 5 minutes. Misumi-kun rushed over to the transfer student's desk. Knowing him, he was going to try to lay the moves on her. The other students were clearly interested in her too, and the room had grown louder than usual. At a glance, it may have seemed like a casual, peaceful, ordinary thing. But for me, it was like being caught deep within enemy territory. My heartbeat was going crazy. Anxiety filled my head to bursting, and so much as lifting a finger felt like more than a one-man job. My brain was in the midst of a civil war, one side urging me to turn around, the other side warning me not to.
Taku?
My breath caught in my throat. My mind went completely blank. A voice had come from directly behind me. She really was here. That girl really was here after all.
具合悪そうだけど、平気?
I needed to run. I needed to run as fast as I could. Despite that, my legs were shaking so violently that I didn't think I could even stand. And while I was frozen solid, the demon girl, Sakihara Rimi, circled around to the front of my seat.
汗びっしょり。風邪でもひいたんじゃない?
Just like 2 days ago, she spoke as if she were concerned about me. Just like 2 days ago, she held out her floral-scented handkerchief. I didn't accept the handkerchief, hurriedly wiping the sweat from my forehead on my own.
なんて。
何?
I couldn't look her in the eye. From how she spoke, I could tell she had a smile on her face.
ねえねえ、さっき何話してたの?
Rimi crouched down, resting her chin on her hands. Now at eye level with me, she peered at my face. I quickly looked away. It felt like anxiety would tear my heart right open at any moment. Damn it, why wouldn't she just let me go? Someone, please, help me.
すっごく気になる.
What was she talking about? Who was she asking me about?
転校生. あの子がタクの机の横を通るときに小声でさ、ボソボソーっと。もしかしてあの子と知り合い?
Then that voice I heard, it was real? Rimi was still smiling. Was it just me, or was her tone more of a probing one than an actually curious one?
タクってリアルの女の子に興味ないんじゃなかったっけ? もしかして本当は興味あるの?
Where was she going with this? Was her plan to probe me for personal information and then exploit for her own gain? At the end of the day, I really didn't give a damn about 3D girls. Just like I always said in that sour voice of mine.
じゃあさ、私にも実は興味あったりする?
An icy chill ran down my back. Despite having just wiped the sweat off my forehead, I could feel moisture all over it. Was that a threat? Or could it be that she was inviting me to become her ally? Or maybe she intended to seduce me, acting all moe so she could lure me into a trap. All sorts of alarm bells were going off in my head. I shouldn't be talking to the demon girl anymore. If I did, I'd be signing my own death warrant. I'd hit my breaking point. In a panic, I stood up and dashed for the exit, knocking into several desks on my way out. I ran straight up the stairs without looking at anyone, and came out on the empty roof. It didn't seem like she chased me. Even so, I couldn't allow myself to relax just yet, so I'd hugged my knees and decided to hide for a little while in the shadows. My knees were trembling. I couldn't believe that I managed to run in this condition. I guess it just showed how desperate I was. I was tired of this reality. The D sword I'd gone out of my way to buy hadn't been useful in the slightest. I obviously couldn't bring it to school with how much it stand out either. I've been careless. 2 days ago, when Misumi-kun told me that Rimi was our classmate, I figured that he was either spewing some bullshit or outright deluding himself. But she really was my classmate. Or at the very least, she had become one. There was no point in trying to figure out how she managed to worm her way in. She was a demon. She could do things that humans were incapable of with ease. Maybe she brainwashed my whole class. Or maybe she brainwashed all of the teachers instead. I couldn't go to the hospital anymore, and now I couldn't go to school either. Meanwhile, Yua was at Cafe, and Shogun always appeared online. The demon girl and her underlings were no doubt getting closer and closer to me, continually hitting me with psychological attack after psychological attack as they did it. Maybe I shouldn't leave my base at all anymore. Maybe there were enemies in danger at every turn in reality. They had disturbed me and threatened my peace, even though all I wanted was to live a quiet life, bothering nobody and being bothered by nobody. I looked up at the blue sky. It floated calmly above me as the wind blew white clouds across its breadth. How nice would it be if I could become one of those clouds? I think I'm going to go ahead and end things here for now. My throat is getting pretty parched, despite all the water I've been drinking throughout this whole thing. And I think this is a good enough spot to stop as any. I feel like something is being set up with Nanami in regards to that bracelet that she took. And now we've got Orihara, her name was, the transfer student, in here now too. And we've definitely confirmed that Rimi is now in our class. And then there was that whole scene earlier with those big heads right underneath those Nozomi monitors, talking about some big experiment that they're all conducting, and everything else that they discussed. Something big is going down. And I think something even bigger is on the horizon. And if the opening cinematic is any indication, I think I have a pretty good idea of what the end result of this experiment is going to end up being. That being the complete destruction of Shibuya. So, if I'm right, then what the hell are we going to do about it, I wonder? I have no idea, but nevertheless, I am certainly quite curious to see where things are going to be heading towards next time we come back. That being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of Chaos Head Noah. If you did, and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel, and feel free to hit that like button. I will see you all next time. Take care.